stood at the church door, my bouquet trembling in my hands, watching my fiancé, the man I was supposed to marry, slip a ring onto my sister's finger. My mother smiled proudly in the front pew, pretending not to see the tears streaming down my face. Years earlier, they'd said I was too ambitious for a wife, that I should let a real woman keep a man's heart. That woman turned out to be my own sister. The day that should have been mine became their wedding day. I stood at the door, frozen and my heart shattered. Before I continue, I will love to know where you are watching from. Drop your country in the comments. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as I tell you how humiliated and sad I was, watching my sister as she married the man I once told her I loved. The church looked exactly how I'd imagined it would for my own wedding. White roses lined every pew, and sunlight poured through the stained glass windows, painting everything in soft colors. I wore a pale lavender dress because Lily had asked me to be her bridesmaid. My bridesmaid, at her wedding, to my ex-fiancé. I stood near the entrance, gripping the bouquet so tight my knuckles turned white. My nails dug into my palms, leaving little half-moon marks that would last for days. The organ music started, and everyone stood up. Lily appeared beside me in the white gown I'd picked out months ago, the one I was supposed to wear. She smiled at me, touched my arm, and whispered, "Thank you for understanding." Understanding? I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the flowers and run, but I just nodded, my throat too tight to speak. Daniel stood at the altar in his black suit, the same one he'd worn when he proposed to me under the oak tree in our backyard. My mother sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, beaming like this was the happiest day of her life. Maybe it was. She'd always loved Lily more. Time seemed to freeze as Lily walked down the aisle. The applause around me sounded distant, like I was underwater. I watched Daniel's face light up when he saw her. He'd never looked at me that way. Or maybe he had, and I just didn't remember anymore. The priest's voice echoed through the church. "Do you, Daniel, take Lily to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," he said, his voice strong and certain. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, trying to hold back the tears. This wasn't how my life was supposed to go. 6 months ago, I was planning my own wedding. 6 months ago, I believed in love and family and promises that lasted forever. The freeze-frame moment happened when the priest said, "You may kiss the bride." Everyone clapped. Camera flashes went off, and I just stood there, holding dead flowers, watching my entire future crumble into dust. That's when my voice whispered in my head. They didn't just steal my wedding, they stole my peace. But this story doesn't start here. It starts earlier, in a small apartment in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I still believed the world was fair. Before everything fell apart, my life was simple and good. I was 27 years old, working as a nurse at Raleigh General Hospital. My shifts were long, often stretching into the night, but I loved my job. Taking care of people gave me purpose. My mornings started the same way every day. I'd wake up at 6, make a cup of black coffee, and listen to jazz music on the radio while I got ready. My apartment was small but cozy, a 2-bedroom place with white walls and wooden floors that creaked when you walked. I'd been engaged to Daniel for 8 months. He was a civil engineer, the kind of man who fixed things and always had a plan. He was steady, reliable, the type who showed up when he said he would. My friends called him the safe choice, but I didn't mind. Safe felt good after growing up in chaos. We were planning a spring wedding. I had a folder full of magazine clippings, flower arrangements, cake designs, dress styles. Every night before bed, I'd flip through it, imagining the day I'd finally be Mrs. Harrison. I thought I had everything figured out. I was so wrong. Everything changed when Lily came back. My younger sister was 24, beautiful in that effortless way some people just are. She had long dark hair, bright green eyes, and a laugh that made everyone turn around. Where I was quiet and careful, Lily was wild and free. She'd been living in Florida, working at a beach resort, but she lost her job after showing up late too many times. She called me one night, crying, saying she had nowhere to go. "Please, can I stay with you?" she begged. "Just for a little while, I promise I'll find work." I couldn't say no. She was my sister. Family took care of family, that's what I'd always believed. She moved into my spare bedroom with 2 suitcases and a guitar she never played. Within days, she'd transformed the space, colorful scarves draped over the lamp, crystals on the windowsill, incense burning constantly. My mother called the day after Lily arrived. "You're a good sister," she said. "Lily's fragile. She needs someone strong like you to look after her." I'd heard that my whole life. Lily's fragile. Lily needs understanding. Lily can't help the way she is. Nobody ever said I was fragile. Nobody ever said I needed understanding. The first dinner with all 3 of us should have been a warning. Daniel brought wine and Lily made pasta. We sat around my small kitchen table, laughing and talking. Lily told stories about her time in Florida, wild parties, beach bonfires, celebrities she'd supposedly met. Daniel listened, completely charmed. His eyes lit up when she talked. He laughed at her jokes, even the ones that weren't funny. "You're so different from your sister," he said, grinning. "She's all serious and responsible. You're like sunshine." Lily blushed. I forced a smile. My mother called during dessert. I stepped into the bedroom to take it. "How's it going?" she asked. "Good," I said. "They're getting along really well." "That's wonderful. You're lucky, honey. Lily could never find a man like Daniel. Too picky, that one." The comment stung, though I couldn't say why. When I came back to the table, Daniel and Lily were leaning close, looking at something on his phone. They jumped apart when I walked in. "Just showing her pictures from the work site," Daniel explained quickly. "Yeah," Lily agreed. "Super boring construction stuff." They both laughed. I didn't. Something in my chest felt tight, but I pushed it away. I was being paranoid. Insecure, silly. The cracks started showing in small ways. One morning, Daniel offered to drive Lily to a job interview across town. I was working a double shift, so I couldn't take her myself. "No problem," he said, kissing my forehead. "I'll drop her off on my way to the site." I watched from the window as they got into his truck. Lily laughed at something he said. He smiled back, that easy smile I'd fallen in love with. When I got home that night, exhausted and sore, I found Lily's red lipstick on the passenger side visor, just sitting there like it belonged. "Hey," I called out, "did you leave your lipstick in Daniel's truck?" Lily poked her head out of her room. "Oh yeah, must have fallen out of my purse. Thanks." She didn't seem worried. I told myself it was nothing, just a lipstick. People left things in cars all the time. But that night, lying in bed next to Daniel, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that lipstick bright red against the gray visor, like a tiny flag marking territory. "You okay?" Daniel mumbled, half asleep. "Yeah," I lied, "just tired." He rolled over, already snoring. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. My mother visited one Saturday afternoon. She brought cookies and criticism, her usual combination. We sat in the living room while Lily was out shopping. "You look tired," she said, studying my face. "Are you sleeping enough?" "I'm fine, Mom." She sipped her tea, then set it down with a clink. "You know, dear, you need to be careful. Men don't like women who control everything. They need to feel needed." I frowned. "I don't control everything." "Daniel's a good man. Don't suffocate him with your schedules and plans. Let him breathe. Let him have fun." She patted my hand. "You're so focused on your career. Sometimes men need more than a paycheck and a clean house." Her words felt like tiny knives, each one finding a soft spot. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying marriage is work. You have to keep a man interested. Lily understands that. She knows how to make people feel special." I wanted to argue, but the words stuck in my throat. My mother stood, smoothed her skirt, and left without saying goodbye to me. But she hugged Lily when she came home, whispering something that made my sister smile. The late-night conversations started after that. I'd come home from my evening shifts to find Daniel and Lily in the kitchen, sharing wine and laughter. The lights would be dim, music playing softly. The first time I thought it was sweet. "You two are bonding," I said, grabbing a glass of water. "We're just talking," Daniel said quickly, too quickly. Lily smiled. Yeah, he's been helping me practice for interviews, giving me advice. That's nice, I said, though something felt wrong. When I walked in the next week, they stopped talking the moment they saw me. The silence was thick and awkward. What were you talking about? I asked, trying to sound casual. Your birthday, Lily said. We're planning a surprise. My birthday was 4 months away. Oh, I said, that's really thoughtful. Daniel nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, we want it to be special. I went to bed alone that night. Daniel stayed up, finishing some work emails. Through the walls, I heard their muffled voices, then laughter. I pressed my pillow over my head and tried not to cry. Something was happening. I could feel it like a storm building on the horizon, but I was too afraid to look directly at it. I didn't know about the phone calls until later. Much later when everything had already fallen apart. But they were happening. Every few days, my mother would call Lily's cell and they'd talk for hours. He's exactly what you need, my mother told her during one call. A stable man with a good job. Your sister doesn't appreciate him. She's too cold, too focused on herself. But he's engaged to her, Lily said, though her voice didn't sound convinced. Engagements can be broken. Listen to me, sweetheart. You have something your sister doesn't: warmth, heart. Men need that. They need to feel alive, not like they're living with a robot who makes schedules and lists. Mom, I don't know. You deserve happiness, Lily. And he deserves someone who actually sees him. Your sister's too busy playing nurse to notice what's right in front of her. The poison dripped slowly, call after call, until Lily started believing it. Until she stopped feeling guilty about the lingering touches, the secret smiles, the way she'd started wearing perfume around the apartment. My mother was planting seeds in a garden I didn't even know existed. And by the time I saw the flowers, it was too late to pull them out. The night everything broke happened on a Tuesday. I wasn't supposed to be home. My shift was supposed to run until midnight, but the hospital was overstaffed, and they sent me home early. I walked into my apartment at 9:30, tired but happy to have unexpected free time. Maybe Daniel and I could watch a movie. Maybe we could talk about the wedding, which I'd started to worry he was avoiding. The living room was dark except for candles. Dozens of them, casting shadows that danced on the walls. Daniel and Lily sat on my couch, wine glasses in hand. They weren't touching, but they were close. Too close. And my mother sat in the armchair across from them, hands folded in her lap like she was presiding over a meeting. They all turned when I walked in. The guilt on their faces told me everything. What's going on? My voice sounded small, childlike. Nobody answered right away. Finally, my mother stood. She walked over to me, took my hands, and looked me in the eyes. Sit down, sweetheart. We need to talk. About what? About what's best for everyone. My engagement ring suddenly felt too tight. My chest hurt. Daniel. He couldn't look at me. My mother guided me to a chair like I was fragile, breakable. Maybe I was. Emily, listen to me carefully. What I'm about to say is going to hurt, but it's the truth. And sometimes the truth is the kindest thing. I looked at Daniel. What is she talking about? He opened his mouth, closed it, then looked at Lily. She was crying, but the tears looked practiced, like she'd prepared for this moment. Daniel and Lily have feelings for each other, my mother said calmly, like she was discussing the weather. Real, genuine feelings, and fighting against true love never works. The words didn't make sense. I heard them, but they sounded scrambled. What? It's better this way, Emily. Lily needs him more than you do. You're strong. You have your career, your independence. You'll find someone else. But Lily, she glanced at my sister with such tenderness it made me sick. Lily needs someone to take care of her. I looked at Daniel again. Say something, tell her she's wrong. But he didn't. He just sat there, holding Lily's hand, while my world collapsed in that candle-lit room. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. My hands were shaking. You're all insane. This is insane. My mother reached for me. I stepped back. Don't touch me. Emily, please. No, my voice broke. You're my mother. You're supposed to protect me. I am protecting you. from a marriage that would have made you both miserable. I laughed, a horrible sound. Then I walked to my bedroom, grabbed my suitcase, and started throwing clothes inside. They didn't follow me. Nobody tried to stop me. I packed everything I could fit: clothes, books, my grandmother's necklace. The folder with my wedding plans stayed on the dresser. I couldn't look at it. When I walked back through the living room, my engagement ring in my palm, they were still sitting there, waiting, like they'd expected this. I dropped the ring on the coffee table. It bounced once, then settled near a candle. "Keep it," I said. "Apparently it belongs to someone else now." Lily was crying harder. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. We tried to fight it, but—" "Stop," I said. "Just stop talking." Daniel finally looked at me. "You deserve someone better." I deserved someone loyal. My mother stood. "You're being dramatic. In a few months you'll see this was for the best." I walked to the door, my suitcase wheels squeaking on the floor. Before I left, I turned back one last time. "I hope she makes you happy, Daniel. I really do. Because you both just destroyed the only person who actually loved you for who you were." Then I walked out into the rain, barefoot because I'd forgotten my shoes. I didn't go back for them. The cold water soaked through my clothes as I threw my suitcase in my car. I sat in the driver's seat, shaking, unable to turn the key. They chose her. My own mother chose her. I drove to Atlanta that night. 4 hours in the rain, my windshield wipers beating a rhythm that matched my heart. I'd called my friend Natasha, a nurse I'd trained with years ago. She'd moved to Atlanta for a better position. "Come stay with me," she said without hesitation. "As long as you need." Her apartment was tiny, but she gave me the couch and a blanket, and she didn't ask questions when I cried myself to sleep that first night. For 2 weeks, I barely functioned. I'd wake up, stare at the ceiling, then cry until I was too tired to feel anything. Natasha would leave food by the couch before her shifts. Sometimes I ate it. Usually I didn't. "You have to get up," she said one morning. "I know it hurts, but you have to keep moving." "I don't know how." "One step at a time. Today you shower. Tomorrow we'll figure out the next thing." So I showered. And the day after that, I went for a walk. And the day after that, I applied for a nursing position at Mercy General Hospital. They hired me within a week. Night shifts, hard hours, but I didn't mind. Working kept my mind busy. Working meant I didn't have to think about them. Slowly, painfully, I started rebuilding. Not healing, not yet, but surviving. And sometimes survival is enough. 6 months later, I attended a hospital fundraiser. I almost didn't go. Social events felt impossible, like everyone could see the broken pieces I was trying to hold together. But Natasha insisted. "You need to get out, meet people, remember you're alive." The ballroom was elegant. Crystal chandeliers, classical music, people in expensive clothes talking about important things. I wore a simple black dress and stayed near the punch bowl, counting the minutes until I could leave. That's when I met Dr. Michael Sanders. He was standing by the window, looking out at the city lights, holding a glass of water. He seemed as uncomfortable as I felt. "Not a fan of these things either?" I asked, surprising myself. He turned, and I noticed his kind eyes first. "Is it that obvious? You're the only person here drinking water." He laughed. "And you're the only person who's looked at the punch bowl 4 times without actually getting any." We talked for an hour. He was a cardiologist, brilliant but humble, the kind of person who listened more than he spoke. He didn't ask about my past. He didn't pry. He just talked about his work, about books, about the life he'd built. When the night ended, he asked for my number. I gave it to him, not expecting anything. But he called, and we had coffee, then dinner, then walks through Piedmont Park on Sunday afternoons. Michael never pushed. He let me unfold at my own pace, never demanding explanations for the walls I'd built. 6 months into dating, we were sitting on his apartment balcony when he said, "You don't have to tell me what hurt you, but I want you to know I'm not going anywhere." Tears filled my eyes. "How do you know I was hurt?" "Because people who have never been broken don't build walls that high." So I told him everything. The engagement, the betrayal, the mother who chose my sister. I cried through most of it, expecting him to pull away, to decide I was too damaged. Instead, he held my hand and said, "They didn't deserve you, and their loss gave me the greatest gift of my life." We got married a year later by a lake in the mountains. Just us, Natasha and Michael's brother. No big ceremony, no white dress, no mother to pretend she was proud. Just two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of their old lives. I wore a cream-colored dress and carried wildflowers. When Michael kissed me, I felt something I thought I'd never feel again, safe. We built a quiet life together. He became chief of cardiology. I was promoted to head nurse. Our names appeared together on the hospital board, and every time I saw them, I felt a small spark of pride. This was my life now, clean, honest, whole. 3 years passed. I rarely thought about them anymore. Daniel, Lily, my mother. They were characters in a story I'd closed and put on a shelf. Until the hospital announced the annual charity gala. "We're expecting 200 guests," the event coordinator said during our meeting. "Major donors, hospital board members, local business owners. We want to showcase our staff and thank our supporters." I was in charge of organizing the nursing staff presentations. Michael would be honored on stage for his work in cardiology. It was a big night for both of us. I didn't know they'd be there. Why would I? Raleigh was hours away. They had no connection to Atlanta, to Mercy General, to any of this. But fate has a sense of humor. The invitations went out to every major donor in the region. One of those donors was a construction company that had worked on the hospital's new wing, Daniel's company. He'd apparently clawed his way up from engineer to co-owner. And Lily, always the social climber, had convinced him they needed to attend high-profile events to network. My mother came along because, according to what I learned later, she never missed a chance to see Lily shine. They had no idea I worked there, no idea I'd built a life in Atlanta. In 3 years, none of them had tried to contact me, not once. The night of the gala, I wore a navy blue dress and pearl earrings Michael had given me for our anniversary. I felt elegant, confident, powerful. This was my world now. The ballroom sparkled with lights. The banner across the stage read, "Honoring Dr. Michael Sanders, Chief of Cardiology, and the Mercy General Nursing Excellence Team." I was backstage, organizing notes when Natasha grabbed my arm. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm fine. Just nervous about the presentation." But I wasn't nervous. Something felt off, like the air pressure before a storm. The doors opened at 7. Guests flooded in, elegant people in elegant clothes, champagne glasses glittering in the chandelier light. I stood near the stage, greeting colleagues, smiling for photos. And then I saw them. Lily walked in first, wearing a red dress that probably cost more than my car. Her arm was linked with Daniel's. He wore a suit that fit him better than it used to. Money had been good to them, apparently. And behind them, my mother, draped in pearls and superiority. They walked toward the refreshment table, laughing about something. They hadn't seen me yet. My heart hammered. My hands went cold. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to hide, to avoid this collision. But I didn't. I stood perfectly still, watching them move through my world like ghosts who'd forgotten they were dead. Lily grabbed a glass of champagne and turned toward the stage. That's when she saw the banner. Her glass slipped from her hand. It shattered on the marble floor, champagne spreading like blood. People turned to look. Daniel followed her gaze. His face went white. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. She looked like she'd seen something impossible. I watched them, frozen in their shock, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no satisfaction, just a strange, hollow calm. The event coordinator rushed over to clean up the glass. Lily couldn't move. Daniel whispered something to her, but she just stared at the banner. Dr. Michael Sanders and his wife, head nurse Amelia Sanders. Not Emily anymore. I'd legally changed my name after the divorce from my old life. Amelia was my middle name, the one my grandmother had given me. It felt like a fresh start. Michael appeared beside me, slipping his hand into mine. "You okay?" he whispered. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "3 of them," I said quietly. He followed my gaze and immediately understood. I'd shown him pictures once, a lifetime ago, when I needed him to understand why I couldn't invite family to our wedding. "Want to leave?" he asked. I thought about it. Running would be easy, but I'd spent 3 years running from their shadows. "No," I said. "This is my life now, let them see it." The speeches started at 8. The hospital director spoke first, thanking donors and celebrating achievements. Then it was Michael's turn. He walked onto the stage, confident and calm, and spoke about the importance of cardiac care, about the team he'd built, about the lives they'd saved together. The audience applauded. Then he paused and smiled. But none of this would be possible without the incredible nurses who work alongside us every day. And I'm especially grateful for one nurse in particular, my wife, Amelia, who runs our nursing program with more skill and compassion than anyone I've ever known. The spotlight found me in the crowd. I walked toward the stage, my heart pounding, feeling their eyes burning into my back. As I climbed the stairs, I glanced at their table. Lily looked like she might be sick. Daniel's jaw was clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. My mother sat rigid, her face pale. Michael took my hand and kissed it gently. The crowd applauded. Camera flashes went off. And in that moment, standing on that stage in front of hundreds of people, I realized something. They couldn't hurt me anymore. Their betrayal had been the thing that pushed me toward this life, this real, honest, beautiful life. I didn't need revenge. I just needed them to see what they'd lost. After the ceremony, there was mingling. Donors approached Michael to discuss funding. Colleagues congratulated me on the presentation. I smiled, shook hands, played the part perfectly. I knew they were there, hovering near the edges, trying to work up the courage to approach. Finally, as the crowd thinned, Lily appeared in front of me. "Emily," she started. "Amelia," I corrected gently. "Right, Amelia." She looked like she'd aged a decade. Dark circles under her eyes, lines around her mouth. "I didn't know you were here, in Atlanta." "Why would you? We haven't spoken in 3 years." Daniel joined her, his hands shoved in his pockets. "You look good, really good." "Thank you." The silence stretched. My mother appeared, her face tight with something between shame and defiance. "So you married Michael Sanders," she said finally. It wasn't a question. "I did. He was Daniel's boss, years ago. The one who—" She stopped, realizing she'd said too much. "The one who fired him for ethical violations," I finished. "Yes, I know. Michael told me about it. He said there was an employee who falsified project reports to skim money off contracts." Daniel's face flushed red. Lily grabbed his arm. "Small world," I said simply. 2 weeks after the gala, I heard through mutual connections that Daniel's construction company had lost their hospital contract. The board had decided to go with a more reputable firm after reviewing past projects. Michael never said anything directly, but I knew. He'd quietly pulled strings, made calls, let the right people know about Daniel's history. Not out of revenge. Michael wasn't that kind of man, but out of protection. "I can't have someone with that track record working on our facilities," he explained. "It's about integrity." The company collapsed within months. Daniel sent me an email, the first communication in 3 years. It was long, rambling, full of excuses and accusations. "You destroyed my life," he wrote. "You and your perfect husband playing God. We lost everything because of you." I read it once, then deleted it. Some things don't deserve space in your mind. Lily called after that. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Please, Amelia, we need help. Daniel can't find work. Mom's sick. We have nowhere to go. You were always the strong one. Please." I listened to it twice, then saved it. Not because I planned to respond, but because I wanted to remember this moment. The moment I chose myself. 3 months later, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, there was a knock on my door. I was home early, making soup, when I heard it. Through the peephole, I saw Lily standing on my porch. She was thin, too thin, wearing a coat that looked borrowed. A small child, maybe 3 years old, held her hand. I hadn't known she had a child. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. How did you find my address? Hospital directory. I called and said I was your sister. She tried to smile. Because I am your sister. What do you want, Lily? Her eyes filled with tears. We're desperate. Daniel's been blacklisted. Nobody will hire him. Mom's medical bills are crushing us. I have a son now. She looked down at the boy. His name is Thomas, and I don't know how to feed him. The child looked up at me with big, scared eyes. My heart ached for him. None of this was his fault. Come inside, I said. I made them soup. Gave them warm bread, let them sit by the fireplace. Thomas ate like he hadn't seen food in days. Lily just cried. I'm so sorry, she whispered. For everything. I know sorry doesn't fix it, but I need you to know I've regretted it every single day. I sat across from her, watching the child eat, thinking about karma and choices and consequences. Why did you do it? I asked finally. Lily wiped her eyes. Mom said you didn't really love him, that you were too focused on your career to be a good wife. She said he deserved someone who would put him first. And you believed her. I was stupid and selfish and desperate to be loved. Mom always made me feel like I needed a man to save me, like I wasn't complete without one. She laughed bitterly. Turns out she was wrong. Daniel didn't save me. He trapped me. Is he good to you? She hesitated. He's trying, but we're not happy. We never were. I think we both knew we'd made a mistake within months, but we were too proud to admit it. I thought about my mother's words 3 years ago. It's better this way. Where's Mom now? I asked. Home, too sick to travel, too proud to ask you for help herself. I stood up, went to my purse, and pulled out $500, cash I kept for emergencies. I handed it to Lily. This is for Thomas, I said. Not for you or Daniel or Mom. For that little boy who didn't ask to be born into this mess. Lily took it with shaking hands. Thank you so much. But this is the last time, Lily. I'm done saving people who won't save themselves. As they left, Lily turned at the door. You know what the worst part is? Mom was wrong about everything. You weren't cold or robotic. You were just complete. You didn't need Daniel to be whole. I think that's what scared her, that you didn't need anyone. Everyone needs someone, I said. I just needed the right someone. After they drove away, I sat on my porch and watched the rain. Michael came home an hour later, found me there, and wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. She came, he said. It wasn't a question. She did. And I gave her money for her son and told her it was the last time. He kissed the top of my head. You didn't have to help her. I know, but being kind doesn't mean being weak. And not helping a child because his mother hurt me, that would make me like them. Michael sat beside me, taking my hand. You're remarkable, you know that. I'm just trying to be better than who they said I was. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the storm pass, and I realized something. They didn't win. Not really. They took a wedding, a fiancé, a mother's love, but they couldn't take my strength, my compassion, or my ability to build something real. In the end, I had everything they'd wanted. Love, respect, stability, peace. And all it cost me was letting go of people who never deserved me in the first place. My mother sent a letter 6 months later. It was short, written in her shaky handwriting. I was wrong. I spent so long trying to make Lily into the woman I thought she should be that I forgot to see the woman you already were. You were always the stronger one. I just couldn't admit it because it made me feel like I'd failed as a mother, that you didn't need me. But you never needed me to be strong. You just needed me to love you, and I didn't, not the way you deserved. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know I see it now, what I destroyed, what I lost. I'm sorry. I read it on our bedroom balcony, the morning sun warm on my face. Michael was in the shower, humming off-key like he did every morning. I could have torn it up, thrown it away, let the anger burn it to ash. Instead, I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Not because I forgave her, not yet, maybe not ever, but because closure isn't always about forgiveness. Sometimes it's just about accepting that the past is done and the future is yours to write. A few weeks later, I got a call from the hospital. They wanted to expand my program, train nurses across the state. It was a huge opportunity. Speaking engagements, published papers, my name on something that would help thousands of people. I said yes. Because betrayal didn't destroy me. It refined me. It taught me what I was made of: steel wrapped in kindness, strength wrapped in grace. And those who plant deceit in others' gardens, they forget one crucial thing: seeds grow where they're planted. My mother's garden bloomed with exactly what she sowed: a daughter who resented her, a son-in-law who blamed her for his failures, and a legacy of broken trust she could never repair. Lily's garden grew thorns: a loveless marriage, financial ruin, and the constant weight of knowing she'd traded her integrity for a man who never truly wanted her. And Daniel, his garden withered entirely. Last I heard, he was working at a hardware store, bitter and alone, still telling anyone who'd listen that he was the victim. But my garden, it grew wildflowers. The kind that bloom even in rocky soil, that bend in the wind but never break, that scatter seeds for the next season without even trying. I became the kind of nurse who remembered every patient's name, the kind of wife who laughed easily and loved deeply, the kind of woman who could look at her reflection and feel proud. Michael and I bought a house with a big backyard. We planted actual flowers: roses, daisies, sunflowers that turned their faces toward the light. On weekends, we'd sit on the porch with coffee, watching them grow, grateful for the quiet miracle of a life built on honesty. Sometimes people ask if I ever think about them. The answer is yes, but not the way they'd imagine. I don't think about them with anger or longing or regret. I think about them the way you think about a storm that passed through years ago, destructive in the moment, but ultimately responsible for the stronger foundation you built afterward. They taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when your world falls apart. It's Natasha letting me cry on her couch for 2 weeks. It's Michael loving me without asking me to be anyone other than who I was. They taught me that betrayal says more about the betrayer than the betrayed. That being chosen second doesn't mean you're worth less. It means you were too valuable for people who only dealt in cheap currency. They taught me that the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so beautiful, so real, so unshakably yours that their absence becomes irrelevant. 5 years after that wedding I never had, I stood in a different church. This time, I wasn't a guest or a bridesmaid or a bystander watching her life get stolen. I was there for Natasha's wedding, standing beside her as her maid of honor, holding her flowers while she married a man who looked at her like she hung the moon. During the reception, she pulled me aside. "Thank you for being here, for everything." "You were there for me when I had nothing," I said. "This is the least I could do." She squeezed my hand. "You know what's crazy? When you showed up at my door that night, soaking wet and broken, I thought you'd never recover. I thought they'd destroyed you permanently." "Maybe they did destroy who I was," I said, "but that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you need to be broken down to be rebuilt stronger." "Look at you now," she said, her eyes shining. "Head of nursing, married to the kindest man I've ever met, speaking at conferences. You didn't just survive, you thrived." I smiled. We both did. That night, driving home with Michael beside me, I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who measured her worth by other people's approval, the one who stayed quiet to keep the peace, the one who believed love meant sacrifice, even when the sacrifice was her own dignity. She was gone, and I didn't miss her. "You're quiet," Michael said, glancing over at me. "Just thinking. About how different my life could have been. If they hadn't done what they did, I'd probably be married to Daniel, living in that small town, working the same job, wondering why I felt so empty. Do you wish things had gone differently?" I thought about it honestly. No, I wish it hadn't hurt so much. I wish my mother had been capable of real love. I wish my sister hadn't been so weak. But the outcome, this life, I reached over and took his hand. I wouldn't change it. He brought my hand to his lips and kissed it. Good, because I'm kind of fond of this life too. On my 35th birthday, 8 years after walking out of that candle-lit apartment, I received one final message. It was from an email address I didn't recognize, but the subject line read, "From Lily." I hesitated before opening it. Michael was in the kitchen making breakfast, pancakes, my favorite. Through the window, I could see our garden in full bloom. The email was short. "Thomas asked about you today. He's 7 now, and he remembered the lady who gave us soup when we were hungry. He asked if you were his aunt. I told him yes, even though you probably don't consider yourself that anymore. I'm not writing to ask for anything. I just wanted you to know that I tell him stories about you sometimes, about how strong you are, how you rebuilt your life from nothing, how you chose kindness even when you had every reason to be cruel. I tell him these things because I want him to grow up different from me. I want him to understand that real strength isn't taking what you want, it's building what you need. You don't have to respond. I just thought you should know that somewhere out there, there's a little boy who thinks his aunt is a hero. And his mother does too. Lily." I read it twice, then closed my laptop. Michael appeared with a plate of pancakes, a single candle stuck in the top one. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said and meant it. "Everything's exactly as it should be." He lit the candle. "Make a wish." I closed my eyes, but I didn't wish for anything. I already had everything I needed. When I opened them, Michael was smiling at me with that look, the one that said I was his whole world. And I realized that's what I'd been missing all those years ago with Daniel. Not the grand gestures or the perfect proposal, just that look. The one that says, "You're enough, exactly as you are." 10 years later, I run the largest nursing program in the state. My book on patient care and staff management sits on shelves in hospitals across the country. Michael and I have twin daughters who are loud and wild and absolutely perfect. I never heard from my mother again. She passed away 3 years ago. Lily sent me a funeral announcement. I didn't go, but I sent flowers, white roses, the same ones that lined the church pews the day I lost everything. It felt like closure. Daniel remarried, I heard. Someone from out of state who didn't know his history. I hope he treats her better than he treated me. I hope he learned something. Lily and Thomas moved to Oregon. She works at a bookstore and volunteers at a women's shelter. She sends me a Christmas card every year with a picture of Thomas. He looks happy, healthy, loved. I keep them in a drawer, not out of obligation, but because he's an innocent part of a guilty story. Sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet and my daughters are asleep, I think about the alternate timeline. The one where I married Daniel, where I became bitter and small, where I let their betrayal define me forever. And I'm grateful, so deeply grateful, that I walked out into that rain. Because the truth is, they didn't ruin my life. They freed me to find it. If you're reading this and you've been betrayed, if someone you trusted has destroyed your world, I want you to know something. You will survive this. Not just survive, you'll grow from it. Betrayal is brutal. It's personal. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about love and loyalty and family. But here's what they don't tell you. Betrayal also reveals. It reveals who deserves your trust and who was only borrowing it. It reveals your own strength, the kind you didn't know you had until you needed it. It reveals that the life you thought you wanted might not have been the life you needed. The people who hurt me thought they were taking everything. My fiancé, my family, my future, my peace. They were wrong. They were just clearing space for something better. So take your time, grieve what you lost, cry until you're empty, then stand up, brush off the dirt, and start walking toward the life they tried to steal from you. Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so beautiful, they'll spend the rest of their lives realizing what they gave up. And when they finally see what you've become, when they're standing in the ruins of what they built with their lies, while you're standing in the garden you grew from the ashes, they'll understand. Betrayal didn't break you. It freed you. If you love this story, kindly subscribe to this channel as I bring to you more revenge stories to blow your mind.